lead line, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
Hello, it's an honor to be here again with you at Lead Live. LEAD standing for Leadership Excellence and Achievement on Demand. We believe that everyone can be the chief executive officer of his, her, their lives. And so what we do is we present content. We provide inspiration, ideally, on a consistent basis that not only inspires you to move forward, but gives you the tools to implement right away to help transform the nature of your life in ways that are consistent with your dreams. In fact, it helps you to expand your dreams, to dream big, because you're now thinking even bigger. So we're honored always to be here with you. And those of you who join us live, thank you for taking time out of your likely busy day or even evening, depending upon where you're at on the planet. And thank you for those of you who look at our videos, our broadcast or podcast far into the future. Thousands of folks have seen one or more of our sessions, and we're so honored. Yet we expect to reach many more because of those who are viewing. If you find this content to be valuable, click subscribe, YouTube, Signature Solutions Corporate Results, Lead Live site, and you'll be informed of upcoming sessions. Always Wednesday, noon Pacific Standard Time, and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, if you're like one of my team members, a lead, Jethro, you're in the Philippines, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. We're so appreciative of you. Today, we're talking about a subject that is reflects a book that came out many, many, many years ago, and it's been rewritten, or I should say, interpreted many times in so many different languages across the globe, The Art of War. And we've titled today's session, No Power, The Art of War, with our distinguished guest, Sherlyn Chew. Now, let me just say something about Sherlyn. She's very unassuming, and modest is an understatement. And that same kind of unassuming stance and modesty assume that there's the exacting power that comes with that. This woman has taken the notion of art of war and operationalized it and has presented on it many times. And so when you see her, you're like, oh, she seems like a nice, wonderful person I want to be in contact with. Well, that's true. And she's a remarkable woman. And yet, as she shares some things, really go beyond just what she says to understand the intent and the meaning behind it. So thank you in advance for listening to understand, first and foremost. Why Sherlyn Chew? Why this topic? I happen to know Sherlyn Chew. I happen to like her a great deal, and I love her deeply. So it was easy for me to think of her and ask her if she would consider being on Lead Live. I don't have to like you, I don't have to love you in order to invite you. And yet it's such a wonderful bonus to have those two. And the other thing is that she's led in ways that people didn't even know that she was the one leading. She created openings for countless individuals, far beyond the 13,000 students who she literally provided guidance to. She taught, she facilitated, she coached. She did more than just be a sage on the stage. In fact, that wasn't her wiring. Her wiring was to help them really expand their, what they thought was their capacity, but really expand their thinking to go deep into their greater capacity. She's taught for 50 years. Can you imagine that? And she's still brilliant. She's just gotten sharper over time. And she began in 1973 at Laney College. in Oakland, California. And I had the distinguished honor of meeting her when I became a part of that institution, and definitely had an opportunity to honor and support what the work that she was doing when I was college president or president of that institution. Well, what else is significant about this woman? I'm not going to tell you everything because she's going to share more and allow me to reveal more. Think about someone who functions in a way where people just think they put her in a little box. And she's not thinking about the box because it had nothing to do with her. And she's going to move forward. And folks are saying, no, you can't do that. It's not part of her understanding. It's not part of her authenticity. So guess what? She moves forward. She ended up being a catalyst for so many young people to just take off beyond just get educated, really go into professions that they might not otherwise do, and be the hope and the inspiration of their families, because she chose to help them gain an understanding, a confidence, and understand that they could engage in due diligence to knock it out the park, whatever that it is for them, in terms of their career, in terms of their own dreams, in terms of manifesting greatness for the local community, let alone beyond. So the orchestra that she facilitated the development of, the Chinese orchestra, was the first Chinese orchestra in the United States at a community college. And there are many community colleges across the United States, well in excess of 1,000. And that was the first. A first to be invited to China, first to be invited to other countries, a first to be invited to the White House, a first to so many first to be invited to homes and environments of dignitaries because of the genius. I think I talked too much. Let's bring her in. Jethro, please bring her into the studio. And it's my honor to say hello to you, Miss Sherlyn.
Hi,
How,
Elnora.
how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for the invitation and all your words of kindness.
It's my honor, and I like being authentic. It's who I am, and most importantly, I like being accurate. So everything I shared, I'm happy that it was kind. It was heartfelt, and you felt it was kind. It's true. So can you tell us something about yourself that otherwise folks would not know because it's not in the public space, whether social media or you've not shared it?
Well, I was born in Oakland. I think all the way from my grandmother during the 1906 earthquake. They took the ferry over to Oakland. So my mother was born in Oakland, and I was born in Oakland, and my son is also born in Oakland. So we're generations uh, of people who've been here a long time. And my father was a musician, and every night at the dinner table, he would talk about music or talk about the art of war. So I learned
Mm,
from him.
very interesting. And did he ever tell you why he chose to focus on and share his understanding of the art of war?
That book was, as scholars put it, believe that the book was written between 475 BC to 221 BC. And the person who wrote it was Sun. And Sun was a general in the army. And of course, I don't talk about this to say the glamour of war. I mean, how can mutual destruction be good? But in order to make certain decisions, it's better to make an educated decision than to go with your gut feeling. But a lot of the things about the art of war, studying history and how to apply it to make things work your way.
So he really wanted you to understand it at a deep level so that it would navigate your life. I'm following you.
Yes, it definitely did. So in order for me to be familiar with it, by the time I was, in my 20s, which I applied to teach at many colleges and got four positions. One was Laney. I was also at Mills College, Sonoma State University, and UC Berkeley Extension. So I had all these four colleges, but there must be something my father had said that made it possible for me to go get it.
Mm, interesting. So, the art of war, what is the art of war? If you were to summarize it just succinctly.
I would say that how to win at every hand and to understand your opponent. So I would like to sort of categorize it and break it down or list it and then go through each one
Mhm.
to
Please.
explain it better. Okay.
Mhm. Please.
Um, the most important thing about your opponent is that you have to know the power of your opponent and you have to know your own power. If you only know the power of yourself and do not know the power of your opponent, you cut your winnings by 50%. If you do not know your own power and you do not know the power of your opponent, 100% you will lose. So you must make it your advantage to know your own power and the power of your opponent. So there are a few things that I would like to list, at least five categories, because the book is 13 chapters and has been translated to many languages. It's a book that West Point is a required reading for the
Yes.
students. Okay, it's also used by, let's say, the Japanese people when they in their business dealings. So I'm going to list it, then I'm going to explain how it was used, and then I'm going to talk about how you can apply it,
Go
or
for it.
how I apply it. Okay. So the five elements are the moral cause, the weather, the landscape, the generals, and the strategy. Okay. So how does that apply, or in history? The moral cause. For example, the reason why Chairman Mao became into power because he was doing something or telling the people that China was so poor that they really didn't have a choice and that he needed the support so that rather than one person eats too much and have enough to throw away food, whereas you can actually share it so that 99 other people can also eat. It was the moral cause. He came out selling the idea that he was doing something for the better of all. Um, the next thing that is important that I mentioned it would be weather. That that means not only if it's hot or cold, it also means the timing. Okay. For example, Napoleon lost to weather, and Hitler probably didn't study it or was not aware of it. And because of that, Hitler also lost to weather. All his tanks froze up in Russia. And that's losing to weather. Okay. And also, timing has to do with weather too. Um, the next one is landscape. We lost in Vietnam because we were unfamiliar with the landscape. We didn't know where the landmines were. Landscape is very important. Another one is your generals. These are people who are going to help you. These are people who has the power and the knowledge. Now, who was a good person to choose the right general, attorney general? John F. Kennedy. He chose his brother Robert Kennedy to be the attorney general. Someone who is smart, someone who he can rely on and totally trust. And then the last one is strategy. Who uses this very well? The Chinese. For the longest time, we didn't have a relationship with China. We were all conditioned that uh, they were they were a national threat because they're communists. Well, somehow the curtains have to come down, and we must develop a relationship with them. And what did we do? A very simple strategy. We invited them, or they invited us, to play ping pong. That's very harmless. And how can you say no to something like that? And nobody loses face if you say no. So the Chinese decided to invite US. Hey, let's have a ping pong game. And that's why it was called the ping pong diplomacy. After that, the doors open. The rest is history. Okay. So, uh, having all these things in your mind, the five elements, then how are you going to apply it to your daily life? Remember, there were no Chinese orchestra in any of the colleges. And I had just graduated from college, and I tried to apply for jobs, and was very scarce at the time. That was about 1971, 72. And I decided that, well, what I should do is probably uh, work on what skills I have. And I decided that I would apply to teach Chinese music. It is not a bad thing. So my moral cause was all in place. I knew if I was going to do something for the betterment of others, that I would get the support. And I was right. The next thing, it was weather. Remember, I said weather can be timing. What happened in the early 1970s? Nixon went to China. And anything that was Chinese, people were interested. And like I mentioned, that our family is from Oakland, and at the time, my sister and my cousins were riding a bicycle around Lake Merritt, and then they ran into some people who probably saw some um, TV shows from China or clips and things like that, and where people were doing tricks on their bicycle. They asked my cousin and my sister, "Can you do those tricks?" And they said, "No, we can't." So uh, the weather was on my side. Nixon went to China. Anything that was Chinese, people had an interest in. Another thing was landscape. Bart was across the street from Laney College. That itself was a big uh, item that was on favorable to me, because the public transportation to get to Laney College was a lot easier. And the
Folks could easily get here from San Francisco, from San Jose, from
right,
a number of different places across the Greater Bay Area.
right. And for my generals, okay, I really give it some thought, and I went to the Chinatown, or the in Oakland Chinatown, the Chinese Community Center. And they were my generals, and I told them what I wanted to do. Like I say, if your moral cause is in place, you will have the support. So the generals were the people who wrote the letter to Peralta and to Laney College, and it went like this: a community college needs to serve the needs of the community. You are a few blocks away from Chinatown, and the Chinese at the time generated the highest tax revenue for Oakland. And so the question was, what are you doing for our people? So things started to roll. The last thing I had to do was strategy. I had to analyze how I'm going to strategize so that this is going to happen. So we used to have this thing called the average daily attendance, and the acronym was ADA. Now they have a different term for it. Was it FTES or something like that?
Yes, full-time equivalent students,
Right.
FTES. Mm-hmm.
And so the college makes money when you um, have at least 25 students. That's the break-even point. The 26th student, they begin to make money. Okay. And so I knew I had to have at least 25. I went to the press, I went on to the radio station and so on, and really push hard to get that 25 students, which I did. And so you have to sort of really work around the whole system and identify. Sometimes you would see their weakness, or you would see what do they need. Not necessarily what they need is their weakness, but sometimes it's very related. And what they did need was funds. And if you can bring the funds and not have them lose money to have a class like this, at least make some money, then it'll work. So all these things you have to have in place. Now, in order to be successful in life, there are three other things that my dad told me that were very important. The first one is your ability. The second one is your opportunity. And the third one is your personality, is who you know. If you had the all these people who are willing to help you, and it was your opportunity and the people you know, but you didn't have the ability, you didn't have those degrees, there was no way you can teach this class. So what you should do all the time is to work on your ability. And when the opportunity arises and the right people came to help you because you have your moral cause in place, you will be able to achieve what you need to achieve. So by using the art of war to apply to your daily life, if you sort of think about and analyze everything, you will be able to achieve your goal. It doesn't always have to be about war and death and so on, because mutual destruction is never good. Never.
And
Nobody wins a war. The one who loses less is considered the winner, because you cannot put a value to human life. So that is,
yes,
in short, what
it's powerful, succinct to the point. And what you're talking about is really a strategy for success in life.
right.
You begin with the understanding one's own power. That cannot be in isolation of understanding the power of any opponent Now, let's be clear, there are a lot of opponents out there, and not all of them are relevant. It's all about what it is that you're seeking to achieve, or any one of us is seeking to achieve, and then assessing the lay of the land. And if there's any opposition, understanding that opposition before you go in to pursue what you choose to pursue or engage in whatever you choose to engage in, etc. The other thing you mentioned and you just summarized, you have to have the appropriate ability, whether it is and demonstrate it, knowledge, technical skills, the ability to perform. You've got to have the right set of opportunities. And I believe when you've got the right personality, you have engaged in the appropriate preparation, not to be perfect, but to be sufficiently capable, and it's demonstrated, then the opportunities just arise. It's just a matter of putting your head up and recognizing it and listening to people when they're giving you what you asked for. Instead of saying, oh, no, 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 no. Lean in, honor, and welcome it, because we're always getting what we ask for. And the bottom line is be careful what you ask for. So I love that you just broke down those 5 key elements: moral cause, weather and timing, they're synergistic, landscape, to assess if it's clear or are there landmines. And typically, when we're going out after a big dream, as you did, and I'll just say parenthetically, you went out after creating something, and you created big, from 25 students to over 130 or whatever students at a time. That's big. That's not minor. And folks of different ages, different nationalities. You had a young man that threw people off because he's actually, I think, darker than my complexion, beautiful child who grew into this awesome young man who was singing Chinese. He was one of your lead singers, right?
Yes,
African American.
yes,
And you have Latinos playing these absolutely remarkable instruments, in addition to individuals who were born here, never been to China, and yet they're Chinese, learning part of the ancestral cultural history through understanding the instruments, through understanding the songs, and why the songs are constructed the way they're constructed, why so much powerful. So I went too far with that side note. But when you talk about the art of war and those 5 elements, that includes also the generals and the strategies, uh, being strategic overall, you're reminding us that all of us benefit from doing these things.
yes. Well, it grew, like you said, from 25 to, in the hundreds. Um, how did that happen? Well, when I said I was at 4 different places, at the age of 23, 24, uh, I knew, being part-time everywhere, I was never going to have a pension or health benefits and things like that. So then I became a teacher at Lincoln School, and which is near in Oakland, Chinatown, this about 4 blocks away from Laney College. And I decided to keep Laney College and let the others go because it's nearby. And uh, when I taught at Lincoln as a music teacher, on a rotation basis, I saw the entire student body. And so Peralta had a system where it's called concurrent enrollment plan, where K-12 students can enroll and get college credit. And so I knew at the time that it would be wonderful to have these students come. And so the parents, because it's close by, decided that, they enroll the kids. But then if you didn't go to Lincoln, then what happens? You know, um, we created a morning class for those who may not even come from Oakland Unified School District. And so those were the beginning group. And so on a on a Saturday, we have the beginning classes in the morning, and we have the intermediates and the advanced students in the afternoon. So what happens in we have 50 who the intermediate kids will rehearse with the conductor, and after 2 hours they would go in and work with the coaches, and the advanced students will now come out and work with conductor. So on a given Saturday, 50 in the morning, and in the afternoon, I accommodate another 100. So it's 150 kids on Saturdays. And a lot of our students are key latch children, where the parents work in restaurants and so on. And so they feel very at ease when the students are with me and being watched. But it's a very expensive program to run because you have all the coaches teaching the different instruments. So we are supported by the National Endowment for the Arts, the California Arts Council, Oakland Cultural Arts, ACTA, which is the Alliance for California Traditional Arts. So, like I say, your moral cause is there, you will have the support.
Well, I I'm appreciative of what you chose to do that illuminates history for all of us and expose us to different levels of geniuses. The students themselves, without a doubt. I mean, every time I've seen a performance, I'm spellbound and I'm captivated by them and the way they choose to engage the instruments. And some of them I can't tell the difference between where that instrument ends and their bodies begin because they're so beautifully aligned. I'm also deeply impressed with the what do you call them again? Those professionals who work with you to ensure that they're best
Yeah,
prepared.
we call them the coaches. Okay.
The coaches,
Yeah.
they're remarkable. Can you speak about them a little bit more?
Well, a lot of them are trained in China, and a lot of them arrive here to perform, and they like it here, and they change their as a tourist to what you call H-1 visa, which means that they uh, they are here on special talent. They have a special skill. They're not competing with another American, for the same job. Um, and so when they are here, and I realized that they were people who perform in Vienna Opera House and Lincoln Center and all kinds of very important venues in our country. I said, and I listened to them, and they're really good. And so then I have to find the fundings to pay them to work with our students. So that's why the quality of our program is as high as it is.
Yeah, it's exceptional.
Another thing is that it's important for me that the students know about their own culture, but at the same time, they must learn to respect the culture of others. So we use our Chinese instruments to play songs such as
Mhm.
De Colores or O Sole Mio, Radetzky's March, um, The Entertainer. I mean, they have a chance to learn, use the instruments and play music throughout the world. And so it ties in with, I show them the map. This song is, from Italy. This song is from Australia. This song is from Mexico. This song is from Cuba, like Guantanamera, and De Colores is from Mexico. So then they would have a chance to understand and learn about others, people's culture. So the important thing that I've told them, I said, we are not different because of the color of our skin. What makes us different is our cultural background. And therefore, it's important to me that you study the culture of other people. And so far, they like it very much.
Mm, yeah, it's powerful. I think that's part of your personality. You, I know you were fortunate to have your mom and dad. I think you chose them spiritually. We won't go there. That's a personal belief. And you're fortunate to have a remarkable son who is now the director of the Chinese orchestra.
That is
Um,
true.
and he is, oh my goodness, his talents are um, so out of bounds with what I think that the local community even knows. Can you speak to that? And I would embarrass him if he was on the call right now, and I don't want to do that, although I'm okay doing that.
And
Uh,
well, people were, asking me, you have this African American child who sings Chinese opera. Then your son has a degree in jazz for his bachelor's, and then a master's in, Afro-Cuban music. What are you doing? What are you trying to prove? I'm not trying to prove anything. You know, I mean, to
and
each
it's
their
not about you because he chose. This is I know his personality. He chose what he did. He was inspired and is inspired by you. But he chose that path.
Correct. He did. I had Tyler when he was only 4 years old. He was what you call a late baby. He was born in October. So when school started and he was in kindergarten, he was still 4. He wasn't 5 yet, you know. And at that age, you learn from rote and so on. And I
That's right.
realized he has a gift for really learning music and picking it up very easily. And before people tell them anything about you're strange, he's already had the experience of performing on stage and so on. And so when we had there was President Bush was in office and they were entertaining Madame Wu Yi was the vice premier of China. And so they needed to have uh, for their bilateral talk to discuss the budget deficit, Chinese entertainment. So somehow they found me and asked that we go there and be part of this and entertain them. So after once that is in place, then from then on, they have your name and number, and so therefore, when President Obama had his parties and things like that, we were invited again. You know, um, my son one day broke down to cry, and I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "I'm not black." I said, "You're 12 and you just realize you're not black?" He said, "No, I just like their music so much and so on, and I
I
said,
laugh, but it was serious.
for
I would
him,
not have laughed then, but yeah.
I,
Mhm.
I said, Victor, the most important thing, there's no limit that you cannot study their culture. You go ahead and study their culture, and which he did, and he became really efficient in music history, music theory, about, you ask him anything about Motown. Matter of fact, when he went to get his master, they called him the Motown Scholar. And he just had the opportunity to meet very important people in Motown, like Clarence Avant, who was the former chairman of Motown. And then he was impressed with Victor's knowledge and continued to give him records and CDs and continue to cultivate him. And so then he ends up liking Afro-Cuban music, Afro-Latin music, and then got a master's in that. So he has a background in Chinese music, had classical piano since he was 6, grew up with Chinese music and then have a degree in jazz and a degree in Afro-Cuban. And so people ask, what are you trying to prove? I'm not trying to prove anything. It's like food. Tyler prefers to eat Chinese food, and Victor wanted something else. Go for it. Just
Mhm.
let them go the
Yeah.
natural way. You
And
know.
that's the power, I think the genius of those of us who choose to welcome the spirit of every child, every young adult, every elder as they are, and encourage them to be that authentic self. All of a
Right.
sudden, we all benefit. There's um, we don't speak about what we don't like on this broadcast much, but I'll say there's too much nonsense going on that's about dividing us, about harming us,
Mhm.
about distracting us, about taking away our own voices. And only we can choose to stay focused, to clarify where we want to go, why we want to go there, and to allow for the universe to give us, equip us with what we need so that we're capable of taking advantage of all the opportunities that do emerge. What we focus on is what we draw to us, and when they emerge, when they appear, and they may have always been there, but the lenses are cleansed, and all of a sudden we can see. I'm reminded of wearing sunglasses, and sometimes, rarely, but sometimes I put them on my head. And I'm walking around, I'm like, "Where's my sunglasses? Where's my sunglasses?" And someone will go, "On your head." "Oh, okay." And it's worse off when I'm wearing my regular, those are prescription, but regular prescription glasses, and I'm saying, I don't have my glasses. I can see okay, but I don't have my glasses." People are like, "You had them on." And it's the same thing with life itself. When we are clear, and even if we don't know we're clear, but we're clear about whatever, we draw that to us. Let's be clear about what works for us.
Right.
Let's be like your son. Let's be like Tyler. Let's be like folks who choose to be who you ought to be, authentic. And
Yes.
then the ability, the opportunity, your inherent beautiful personality that you may not have allowed to just prior to be revealed will usher
I,
in
I want to
all
share
kinds of
with you
stuff. Go
uh,
ahead.
that when he was 6 years old, his father was diagnosed of having cancer, and I was told by the time I was 36 that to prepare for widowhood. Okay,
Mm,
so I had to take him to see a psychologist, and because he was crying in class when the teacher said nobody touched him. He looked out the window and cried. So that, I said, okay, then I need to get some counseling for him. So at 6, he was very, I don't know, he wanted me to be close. He was sitting on my lap, and the psychologist was across from me, and he asked Victor to draw a picture. And so Victor drew a picture of a man, and so on, and then he crossed out the eyeballs, and I was thinking, oh my God, they're going to think of me as I'm abusing him, child abuse. So then I guess the psychologist saw my expression that I was kind of nervous, and she said, Victor, tell me about your picture. And he said, you don't know who this is? That's Ray Charles. That's why.
oh,
So even at age 6, I kind of knew what kind of music he's going to end up,
yeah.
what he's going to gravitate toward. And I think that when Ray Charles passed on was within days of Ronald Reagan, and
Mm,
he thought that the flag should be half mast, not only for President Reagan, but for
mhm.
Ray Charles as well.
Oh,
So I was very happy to. Um, I think it was we saw Ray Charles in performance, And at the same time, we also saw another group. You see, like you said, sometimes you forget. No, it's called Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, wow.
We saw them back to back. Okay, and I was thinking at the time he was so young, for me to drive all the way up there to I think it was Reno to see it. But when Ray Charles passed, I said to myself, I'm so glad I did.
Mm,
That's one person you wanted to see. It made that much of a difference to him.
mhm,
And so you could sort of sense it very early what they gravitate toward. And he really liked Ray Charles. And how did he know about Ray Charles? Things go better with Coca-Cola. Things go better with Coke. And that's all it took. And then we bought Ray Charles CDs and records, and all those things helped. But you as a parent, you can sense it.
mhm. What would you say to folks when they say the art of war? Okay, I hear I need to know my opponent. I need to know myself. And those key 5 parts, moral calls, weather, timing, landscape, understanding if there's landmines, or just understand the landscape, period, to navigate. And then, of course, generals, having the right support
Right.
and strategy. They say, okay, and I have ability. I I think I have the right personality, but the opportunities are just not there. Just got laid off, or I've been told that I am going to lose my position because they have to downside. There's all this retrenchment going on. What do you tell people who are in a state of disbelief and are experiencing less than ideal, and yet they believe they're aligned with these things?
Well, the most important thing is that you have to apply those three things: the ability, your opportunity, and your personality. So knowing the right people who can put in a good word for you is very important. Okay, the opportunity you can create yourself, but it should be created within your ability. It should be created in the sense that if that opportunity comes, that you should be able to do it. You don't create an opportunity and then all of a sudden, gee, I'm not fit for the job.
Mhm,
So those are things that sometimes opportunity can be created. They said that time can create a hero, but a hero can also create the right time.
mhm. Embedded in personality is this notion of unwavering commitment to the bottom line.
Hmm.
That the way one is with oneself is sufficiently clear, where their personality is, doesn't matter what's happening around them. They know that they're going to actualize. They remain steadfast. And yes, there may be one so-called failed attempt after the other. They And another perspective is there's one attempt after the other to provide more learning, more growth. So when the opportunity does present itself, you can see it more clearly. And I would say to some folks, there are opportunities that are right in front of you you may not see. And who am I?
Exactly.
I'm not in your space, but I know from my limited experiences on this planet, only 64 years, and a lot of interactions with a lot of people, a lot of remarkable people, great people, who at moments and times in their life, and I'm included, couldn't see what was right in front of them. Someone kept asking this person what they wanted, and they kept being deferential. Oh, whatever you give, whatever you give. And that person knew exactly what she wanted, but never said it.
Hmm.
Just whatever, oh, okay, well, then I'll give you crumbs. That's not what I want, but you never said it.
Hmm.
Or they say it, and then someone says, okay, then they don't tell you, but they give you what you asked for. which reminds me of something I experienced when I was a kid. Um, one of my brothers, we were in this particular foster home. He kept singing, "I want some bell bottoms. I want some bell bottoms. I want some bell bottoms." This is when they were in real big style, right? I don't even know if it was the 60s or 70s, but I want some. It must have been in the 60s because he was young. I want some bell bottoms. Well, unbeknownst to him, the foster parent had bought him some bell bottoms, bought me some bell bottoms. I never even asked for them. And they were in the dresser drawer, our respective drawers. I don't know if the other two brothers got it, but I just remember him, and it was driving her nuts, but she never told him. So he got what he asked for, but then he grew, so he couldn't even fit them. He was so focused on, I don't have it, I don't have him. And he never went into his dresser drawer to look for them because he assumed that they weren't there. Now, one could say, well, she should have told him. Uh, maybe there was a whole point to it. Never assume you don't have what you asked for. Just look.
Right.
What?
And also to be aware and listen to what other people say. Now, I'll show you an example. I have a good friend, and she said, "Do you know why I don't donate to your program?" Because she's always very generous. Because you make it hard. And then I listened. She said, "I don't do PayPal or Venmo.
Mm,
I don't write checks. And I don't, I know, and then why would I stand in line, to buy stamps and buy envelopes? So she said, you need to make it easy for people who wants to donate. On your website, you should have things like, if you have a credit card or something like that, if you just have PayPal and people don't know, you can go to PayPal and then use your credit card. The credit card should be right up there, because the thing is, by having the logo PayPal, they think that you have to pay through PayPal and they don't have it. And so it's things like that that I really have to listen to, you know.
yeah, you remind me of another story that is a professional story. And without indicating the person, uh, was offered a major opportunity 20 years before he took it. And all he heard was, and he wanted it, all he heard was all these issues with taking that position. And happened to just share it with me. And I said, oh, sounds like that's something that you want. Yeah, but there's going to be this issue, this issue, this issue, this issue. Okay. That's something that you want, right? You want that position. You want to be able to do these other things. Can you talk to me about those things you want to do? And that's the position you were offered. Oh no, but there's going to be these issues. And he basically talked himself out of it. And then he had 20 years to regret it. And then the next time it came up, because they always want him in that leadership role. The role was not at the same high level, it was slightly subordinated, and he took it. So we have a tendency of talking ourselves out of things as well. And you and I get to talk to folks all the time. I get to share people about an opportunity. After they say, I need this, I want this, and da da da, and I say, oh, interesting. Well, I have an opportunity. It could actually ensure that you can do all those things and in record time. Well, what's record time? You said you want to do it in 5 years. How about do it in 2.5 years or 1 year? Really? And some of them never get to the next step of asking, can you tell me more? They're so afraid of the success that's right in front of them. So fear of success is powerful. So as you think about these things, the power of self, the power of the opponent, and the opponent doesn't mean that that person's inherently evil or negative. It just
No,
may mean that that person, you're in competition for it in a healthy way. But if you
right.
don't understand the person in a healthy way, you're not going to be able to compete as
Sometimes the
effectively.
opponent, doesn't have to be, it could be a situation. Okay. I had a student, and she was a little girl at the time, and we talk about what we wanted to do when we grow up. And she said she wanted to be a nurse. And I said, well, that's good. Why do you want to be a nurse? And she said, because I'm a girl and girls are supposed to be nurses and boys are supposed to be doctors. And I said, well, don't you want to be a doctor? No, that's for boys. And then at the time, Marla Thomas came out with the song Free to Be You and Me.
Mm.
I let her listen to it. I said, nobody said the girls couldn't be doctors. And the light bulb came on. She was only 8 years old. And what is she now? A doctor. So sometimes it's just takes someone to turn on the light that that's a
Hmm.
possibility,
Hmm.
you know. So I,
Powerful.
yeah.
Well, I am so appreciative that you join us today.
Well, thank you
The
for having
gems, the clarity, the simplicity, and yet the power of what you shared. Uh, and there are folks who are CEOs of large corporations, who are executive directors of small organizations, who are elected officials, who are facilitating the learning, the engagement of individuals, whether they're in their divisions, their units, or their students. And everyone benefits from understanding the art of war. It is literally a strategy for success in life.
Yes, yes. It's a required reading for uh, some of my classes when I taught Chinese opera, because we talk about the different operas and, how, let's say, um, there was an opera about the empty fort, and there were no soldiers there. But in order to trick the other person that, there were a lot of people there, he opened the door and played his instrument. Thus, the enemy who was going to come and attack him was afraid, because he thinks that the fort must be ready for an ambush. So that army retreated. So, when I show the opera, I ask that they do read The Art of War, and how sometimes you want to give people the impression that something else is happening so that you can win.
Mhm. It reminds me of so many things, like including the impression of increase,
Mhm.
leaving people with the impression of increase, leaving people the gift of the impression of increase. What do I mean by that? You do it naturally, and I don't even think you're aware of it. And that is when someone is in need, you just think in terms of how to be of service, how to ensure that needs met, and you're constantly moving. You're organizing this, you're organizing that. Someone needs something. Okay, let's figure out how we can get it. And if you can't do it, you connect and you make certain you circle back to ensure that that person has it. And they walk away and they're like, "Wow, Sherlyn, she's the bomb. She's the person. I want my kids to go there." Or, I'm growing up and I want to send my children now that an adult. More importantly, even if they don't circle back, the power of them paying that forward is just incalculable. And so in terms of the art of war, one of the things that is embedded in that remarkable instructive text is the importance of not going to war at all. You
Exactly.
understand your opponent well enough, as well as yourself. You understand their strengths and their weaknesses. You use those in a way to mitigate, to neutralize any kind of conflict so that there's no war. Now, that is the real power of that text, is
That's exactly,
understanding the tools enough where there is no war.
exactly. Like I said, I
And that's
mean,
what you said.
yes, I mean, no one wins a war. The one who loses less is considered the winner.
Mhm. Okay, brilliant woman. We went longer than I thought. So let me know if there's something you would like to say as a closing to this, or I should say, as an opening to an opportunity for the person who gets to see this.
You should know it and know the power, and then learn how to apply it to achieve what you want to and reach your goal.
Well, I appreciate you and I thank you for choosing to leverage your dad in a way where you didn't just kind of say, I don't understand that. I don't want to. You leverage that in a way that created not only your career, but enabled more than 13,000 individuals to pursue their own life in healthier, more profound and authentic ways. So, Sherlyn, it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, brilliant people. You heard a lot there in the most simple ways to remind you of your capacity to exceed even your high expectations, your highest expectations. And that's something that we benefit from. When you're at your best, when you're leveraging your capacity and you're allowing the opportunities that complement you, get you to the dream that you've had, the vision that you have, the mission that's an operationalizing of those dreams and the vision. Wow. And then you've got the kind of personality that everybody wants to be around, to complement, to support. You knock it out the park. And I want to thank those of you who are already doing it and doing it well and modeling for the rest of us. So until next week, continue to be who you are, authentically so. Love deeply, unconditionally. Here to be your healthiest self. And remember, faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. Faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. And I'll put this little plug in. Sherlyn didn't know I was going to do this. Purple Silk Orchestra. Purple Silk Orchestra. You'll find that. Just search for it on the internet. We should have had a poster, and we'll have a poster at the end of this when we share the replay. Purple Silk Orchestra. Go to that website, and if you choose to or want to contribute to the foundation that supports this orchestra at Laney College in Oakland, California, that has an impact and influence well beyond this state, this country, please do so. We appreciate you. We appreciate you always. Why don't?